Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Talk2Rami show. I'm so excited here because I am going to chat with the great friend and the true entrepreneur, Amos. He's a true entrepreneur who has been growing businesses for 25 years and investing in startups for the past 10. Since 1997, he has been helping companies to exit successfully, which is, as you all know, that's a hard thing to do in the startups, environment. But currently he's a managing director of the Techstars and Austin. He's also best-selling author of the Sell More Faster, which is you all should read it. Amos, welcome to the program, my friend. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be a guest. I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you, buddy. Can you just let's talk about we all talk about entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur, these shiny object things. How did you start your journey as an entrepreneur? Because I know you are a hardcore entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I appreciate you saying that. I think that I never really identified myself as an entrepreneur at most points in my career. And I think it's only now when I reflect back that I realize that in my DNA, that is who I am. But for me, getting started was not about, I want to go start a company or anything like that. It was just solving interesting problems. And that weren't being solved and being attracted to the puzzle part of it and the building part of it, that was interesting to me from the very, very early days. And I would actually go far as to say I look at the gene that I have, the entrepreneurial gene, as an affliction. I'm not sure it's really a positive thing for all you founders out there. You know how hard it is. But yeah, it really all started out of liking to solve problems and liking to build things and combining those two things.
But entrepreneurship, as you've been around, is really tough. Some people, they define entrepreneurship as, hey, I want to be my own boss, and it's more than into it. Actually, when you become an entrepreneur, as you talk to so many founders in the startups, they work 24/7, man, and it's not the 8 to 5. Basically, you don't have a job, but you have responsibility, a lot of responsibilities that sometimes you don't even know it. But during your career, during talking to so many startups found there, what is the biggest challenge you have faced? Like when you talk to all these founders and they have ideas, they're going to raise money, they're going to just say, hey, here, this is the next thing. I promise you, this is the next thing. How you interact with those people?
How do I interact with them, or what is the biggest challenge that I see?
Yeah, what is the biggest challenge, as far as when you interact with them, what is the biggest challenge that you're trying to say, hey, slow down, let me.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. I think the biggest challenge that I see is it's really, I'll say it in a couple of different ways, but it's really sort of all of the same thing. I mean, as founders, it is very important that we stay optimistic and idealistic and push boundaries that are there, that have never been pushed before, in order to be successful. Like, that is part of the role that we need to play. And also, I think that there is a few misconceptions of what it takes to build a real business. And founders often either don't really understand that building a product isn't building a business, that having a great idea doesn't mean that you're actually able to turn a zero into a one, or a one into a million. And there's, a farce that you're your own boss. You're definitely not your own boss, even before you raise capital, but certainly not the second you raise capital. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with hiring people and taking on other people's money. And so maybe the biggest challenge is trying to understand, for me, trying to understand if I believe that the person I'm talking to has the ability, as those new hurdles are presented to them, whether they know what they are willing to accept them, are capable of actually growing with the idea into a business. And if I think so, great. And maybe I can give them, couple of nuggets of advice that'll help them on their journey. But what's hard for me is if I don't think so, how do I have what's the conversation I have with them that leads with kindness? And also I might be wrong. Maybe they're very capable. So choosing my words very carefully and hopefully helping them understand what it is that they are embarking upon.
Yeah. Do you think which one you go for, character or the talent? I think the character, as you all know, some people, they have this thing. They say, "Oh, we invest in your business," and some people they say, "We invest in you because you're gonna lead this." As a startup founder or somebody that's behind this product or the service or SaaS, whatever it is. How important is the character of the founder, in your opinion?
Yeah, for me, it's the most important thing. I've built my whole thesis at Techstars around 80 to 90% of my decision is based just on the belief of the CEO's ability to build a meaningful company and attract great talent around them. To the point where I don't look at anyone's product, period, before they're accepted, ever, ever, ever. Because I know it's going to change, period. Right. Even if they've raised a Series A, I know it's going to evolve. And so by looking at their product, I'm giving myself an unfair bias, other than to see like, can they build product? But if they're not a product person, if they're hiring people to do that, then it's a moot point. And then the other thing that I do is I try really, really hard in my first conversation and sometimes even in my second conversation with the founder to not focus the conversation around their business, but to focus it really more around them and their team and the things they've accomplished in the past and how they think they're going to change the world versus the actual business they're building. Again, so that I'm not biasing myself against something that I think is cool or not cool. So, I've made that mistake in both directions before, where someone's really excited to share their product, and I look at their product, I'm like, wow, this is really cool, and then it's hard to convince myself that this isn't the right team because I've already attached myself emotionally to something that I like. Or in reverse, I've almost passed on founders before because I heard that the industry or the business that they're building, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really that interested in that. And, fortunately I have a team that we all think around the people, and then someone will say, yeah, but you should talk to the person. And I go in thinking a little bit differently about how, what I'm trying to get out of that meeting so that I'm not biasing myself.
I have seen it. I'm sure you have seen it too, that I have seen the great product, the character, the leadership is not there, they fail. And I have seen they have a decent product, but the character, the motivation, the vision, the hustling, the grinding is behind that founder or startup. And actually they exit very well. Because as you just mentioned, I totally agree with you. Product is going to change. Service is going to change. You can tweak it. You can make it better and everything else. But what we cannot do is change somebody to be somebody else or the character, because you are who you are at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Like I always say, I'm sure you agree with this, that self-awareness is everything, man. Mm-hmm. We have to know who we are before even we're gonna try to something. Because I know in your book, you always say, who you selling to, why you doing it, what you doing. And those are so important. You just mentioned in your book, and I was reading it, that why they're going to buy from you, why they have to talk to you, Yeah. Is it a great product? Is it a good company? Is it good leadership? Is it a good culture? Why even they have to come and, work for your company?
Yeah.
Have you, been in the situation that, the product is great, and you just say that, but you just tell the founder that you got to change yourself, or you got to do certain things in your team or the people that surrounding you. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Have you ever been in that situation that tell them directly, like a straight shoot?
Yeah, I absolutely. I have, but I'll maybe caveat it with I think because of the role that I'm in and because of the number of founders that I interact with, I try very carefully to not be prescriptive at all. Sometimes it is hard.
It is hard.
I try to be much more Socratic. So rather than to say, you need to change and here's how you need to change, which that may or may not be received well, I try to have a conversation. Okay, here's how things are going. Let's dissect it together. Let's try to understand what maybe is not working the way we want it to work, and what are the ways that we can think about, and when I say we, I'm really talking to the person, that
Yes.
you can think about shifts in something. So is it a behavioral shift? Is it a product shift? Is it a personality? What is the thing? And then keep pulling back the layers of that onion, and then what has to actually change. So it's kind of rare, and sometimes founders who I work with find it frustrating at first that I'm not going to just go tell them what to do. But like, I don't know, like it's not going to be just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you either, right? Like I can only tell you what works for me. So let's figure out what's going to work for you.
During your career right now, what you do with the startup, are these startup founder, or are they open to suggestion or criticism?
It's a criteria that we use to select companies. If I don't think they're coachable, we classify it as coachable. If I don't think they're coachable, they're not going to get an offer from us, because the whole thing we want to do is help founders be better. And if they're going to come in and think they have all the answers to everything, they're not going to have a good experience at Techstars. They're not going to have a good experience working with me, because I'm going to question everything. And so it wouldn't be a good fit. So it is one of the when I think about like a CEO who could build a meaningful business, my belief is they're open-minded and coachable.
But what is your process in the tech startups? Like how you get these guys when they're coming to you? I have a great idea. What is your process? If somebody out there and say, oh yeah, I built this product and I want to reach out to you, and say, what is your process that people actually can reach out and say, hey, I need your help?
Yeah, they can email me or they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I do my best to answer anything that's founder specific, particularly to applying to Techstars. So if they're interested in applying to Techstars, then we'll engage in a conversation. If they're not sure, we'll engage in a conversation. If they don't think Techstars is a fit, there was a time when I would still take those calls, but just honestly, the volume is too big and my portfolio is too big. I can't take them anymore, but I try still to be helpful with a nugget of something. So I'll say, hey, tell me something you're trying to solve. Let's try to talk about it over email, and we'll see if we can solve it.
And I had this discussion, a couple of weeks ago. We were debating in going the VC route or angel investor route. Can you tell me? We know the differences, but maybe sometimes it's suitable to go with the VC, sometimes suitable to go with the angel investors. Austin landscape, I think right now is a lot of angel investors. Do you know this person? As you know, I'm sure you got involved in a lot of companies based on, angel investment thing. Which one you think is just gonna go right now with all these things that's happening in Austin?
I still think it is just it's dependent on the company. It's dependent on the founders. I don't know that I could prescribe to a best route. I mean, if the stage of the business is going to matter. I do believe that a lot of founders think they want to raise institutional capital earlier than they probably should. Maybe "should" is the wrong word, but benefits them versus because they think with more money they will be able to grow faster. And the reality is, especially at the early stages, money usually causes more problems than not, versus trying to figure it out and raising angel money. But I think it's really dependent on a situation by situation basis. Like if a company's got decent metrics and maybe more importantly a good handle on their metrics, the institutional route might make sense, because then you're actually taking money that is going to be applied specifically to areas that are going to fuel the business, versus saying, oh, I think if I take in a bunch of money, I can hire some salespeople and build the product. Like that's, it's really hard to get institutions interested in that. Not because they couldn't be, but because there's just too much competition of companies who actually understand their metrics.
The competition is very high. But somebody the other day asked me, do you believe sell it and then build it, or build it to sell it? What do you think? You hear that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a born and raised early stage salesperson. I believe in sell it first and then build it, but there has to be a confidence level in the ability to build it.
Yeah, because I was glancing to your book, and I think selling this is my opinion. I think selling is dead right now because you really have to connect with people. You have to tell them who you are, what you do, why you do it, as you had mentioned that. Do you think this is going to be going on for the next generation as well? That, hey, don't try to sell. Let me tell you. First, you got to tell them who you are and how you're going to do this. I think the 1960s, 70s era is over, that everybody would say that, hey, I got this phone, mine is better than the next one. Would you like to buy it? Now they're saying, who are you?
Yeah, I think we're going through an interesting time right now in sales, and you said something that was interesting, and I'll say it a little differently, which is when I think about what the definition of sales is, to me, sales means that everything is really clear and you can give a script to someone. Even if it's a long sales cycle, you can essentially give a script to someone and they can sell it in a repeatable fashion. And when we're talking about earlier stage companies, and I'm even post Series A companies,
Yeah.
there is not a lot of sales that is happening. There might be some. There is a lot of customer discovery and customer development that is happening that turns into customers.
Yes.
Yes, we call it a sale has happened because there is a transaction that has happened. But when I think about structuring a sales team and we're doing repeatable sales, that's something a little bit differently. That is and that's sort of the point of Sell More Faster, which it takes you through that whole process and like what are the milestones along the way that says, okay, I'm an idea in the very beginning stages, right? You can't operationalize how you think you're going to sell something. You can't operationalize how you've sold a couple of customers, but what you can operationalize is a bunch of learnings that work all the time. Where I think it gets interesting where we are now is that people don't answer the phone anymore, right? I grew up in a time when I can call people and people still wouldn't pick up the phone, but they picked it up more than they do now.
Yeah.
People don't answer their emails anymore. Personally, if I get a text and it's someone selling me something, it's a stop, delete, right?
Yeah.
So I do think LinkedIn, I mean, I'm sure I'm spammed with,
Oh my God.
10, 15 sales calls a day, if not more. It is a very, very hard time to break that barrier, which I think is why it becomes even more important for it to not be sales, but how can I help you?
Yes.
What can I do uniquely to make your life better or your job easier?
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to figure out how do you get that message to someone in the way that they want to receive it.
I created this model a couple of years ago and I was working on it. And I was, once I saw Simon Sinek and we were talking behind the stage and he has a how, what, why. And I say, Simon, I think this model is going to work. My model is like a CEO, like a C stands for connect, E, educate, and O is offer. And I put it into work and it works, man. I'm telling you why you have to connect people, what you're going to sell, how you're going to educate. And that worked, man. Every clients that, we have a digital marketing company and then media and production company, everybody came here. We tried that. It says, let's connect who you are, what you do, how we can. And then we start educating ourselves about them. And then they start educating themselves about us. At the end, we said, can I offer you this? I think we can do this for you. Or even it works with anything. I told one of my friends about their relationship. I said, connect with the lady, get to know her, educate yourself, then say, can I invite you for for dinner?
Yeah.
It works with anything. But if I want to go and, as you said, just go sell without adding value to existing, ecosystem or existing platform or something that's been made, recently, how can I just sell? How can I do that? It just doesn't make sense. I think those days are gone, and right now what people they care, how can I add value to your life or society or whatever we do? And after that, I think everything else would be much, much easier. It worked for me. I don't know in your area of expertise and the people you hang around with or the people you advise or coach, is this something that you think is correct?
I do. I think it is a hard thing for founders sometimes to wrap their mind around because it typically means that things are going to feel a little slower and less transactional. And as a founder, you're just trying to get those data points of like, okay, yes, people want my product, So I think it's a hard thing to wrap one's head around, but I do think it's critical. And I think my experiences, with at least with inside of Techstars, is that the founders that are spending more time trying to do that up front, one, they're getting more information about who they should be talking to, so they're doing real customer discovery because they're forcing themselves into it, and they're finding greater success because, one, they're not wasting time with people who shouldn't be or couldn't be or don't want to be customers anyway, and they're not trying to, just because they believe it, just because I believe you should be my customer doesn't mean you should be my customer. There's a bunch of things that I don't know about you that I'm not taking the time to learn.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people, they don't want to connect in different level because they don't want to be vulnerable. I think the vulnerability is so important in the entrepreneurship. I'm sure, if I'm not vulnerable, how can I grow? What do you think about vulnerability? Do you think it's a sign of weakness or not?
Oh gosh, I love that you asked that question. I do not think it's a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of strength, and I do believe that there are some people out there, maybe more than I care to know about, that don't understand that when someone is being vulnerable, it is not a sign of weakness, and so they automatically assess that person in a certain way. I mean, we know a lot of people in common, and I think anyone who knows me even this deep will tell you this about me. I just share it all.
Actually, I had a talk with a couple of people. They said you get what you see with him.
Yeah,
this is exactly what they said.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you there wasn't a point in my life, even not that long ago, that I didn't believe that to be true. But now I do, and just this is like, now we talk about life and whatever, but. Yeah. The healthy living that comes with being not because basically, what are you doing when you're not being vulnerable? You're lying or you're withholding something, which now all of a sudden I've got to remember who I've said what to. Like, everyone lives their life that way. I don't. I just fucking, excuse my language, I just say
that's
it all.
Good. You can't cuss, man.
Yeah, I mean, here it is. I don't have to remember what I said or make believe. Like, you got me.
You feel much better. I'm exactly like you. I'm a straight shooter. It was in the office. I had I have an employee that, he's like 22. I said, hey, I don't know this. He said, excuse me? I said, I don't know this. Can you guide me? And he said, are you serious or you just joking with me? I said, no, that thing never came across, my desk, and I just wonder what you think. I said, okay, let me walk you through it. And he said, I never asked me that, and you were a CEO. I said, who give a shit?
I bet you had an impact on that person that will carry with them for a long. I hope so. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then they love it because I'm the. I always say 3 words that alcoholic people they cannot say, and it's this: I need help. If you can say that, you're not going to be alcoholic. If you can say that, the right coach, the right mentor, the right partner, everything is out there. As soon as you admit to stuff that you don't know and be vulnerable, the door of opportunity will open. That's what you've been working for me, and I'm a guy that always says that, hey, can I ask you this? And if it's a question or whatever is a stupid question, I still ask. I don't care what you think, and I might grow, I might learn something, through that.
If you're judging me because I don't know something and I'm willing to admit it, then you can judge me all day long, and we don't need to have
And believe it, my friend, believe it. I'm sure you've been through this. A lot of people living by other people's judgment or perception. I know so many people that they really can fucking buy that car, but they go under. I said, why did you do that? And I'm driving it like a Honda, dude. And I go from point A to point B, but I put that money into my business instead of $800,000-$900,000 to is a perception that is killing us. That judgment that, oh, they're gonna judge me. I say, who give a shit? They're gonna judge you no matter what.
By the way, they're probably not thinking that much about you.
Exactly.
They're busy worrying what everyone is thinking about them.
Exactly, because these days, this social media, I always say that social media is a great tool. It's a great tool to use it right. It's a great platform for education. It's a great platform to learn something, to connect with people. But knife can cut the watermelon. Knife can be a weapon. knife can be, some tools as a art that you can use in the art. You can use that anyway. As a
Yeah.
social media, the same thing. Or, people, they don't understand that everything that we do, it comes back to us as a human. We are the worst enemy of ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is with the entrepreneur too. I'm sure that, have you ever felt, I'm sure you felt it. I felt many times, man. Have you ever did something didn't work?
Did something didn't work? I screw up every day.
How you deal with it?
I mean, to some degree, it depends on how big the screw up is, but I just sort of I don't even think of it as a screw up anymore. I just sort of accept in life, like, not everything is what you hope it to be, and not every decision is going to be the right decision. And mostly, if I find myself in a position where I'm like, okay, there's two questions basically I ask myself if things don't go the way I hope they go. One, would I do anything different next time? What have I learned? And two, with the information that I had, if I had that only that same information again and nothing new, would I make the same decision? The answer to that is almost always yes, I would make the same decision because I didn't have any more information. But I've learned something new now, and so good, I can do something different next time.
Yeah, that's the things that most of us, we don't want to actually learn from our mistakes. We think that the mistakes are the end of it. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think there's an interesting second part to that too, especially when you're interacting with like the same people on a regular basis, is I do believe that there are enough people in the world. I kind of think maybe the majority of people in the world don't believe that people can change if they want to or can learn. So just for example, just because I make a mistake, if I'm willing to evolving who I am or how I think, don't judge me on this moment.
Yep.
Judge me on future moments and how I've learned from this moment.
As I said, we have so many mutual friends. I was talking to a couple of them today. I told them I'm, having a chat with you. You are a, God-giving person. I know that. And they told me that sometimes you even talk to the people. There's nothing in it for you, but you guide them, you coach them, you talk to them. Why you think the giving is important?
I think there's a couple of things, and some of them are sort of more macro, and some of them are more micro. Maybe very tactically, there's been a lot of people over the entire course of my life who've given me probably more than I believed I deserved at different points, and so there's a part of me that that's just learned behavior. This is what you do. You help people, right? And that's family, business, friends across the board. And whether I deserved the help or not, I didn't believe I deserved it, and I got it anyway, like even if I did deserve it. So there's a little bit of that going on. I think that in the same vein, probably not for the last 10 years, but before that, it was not easy for me to ask for help. I wasn't vulnerable. And
why wasn't?
Which is where I was brought up. Brought up in a tough town, tough kid. I was a wrestler. Like, you don't show vulnerability. I just
I know you grew up in New York. Is that right?
Yeah,
Bronx?
in North Jersey. Yeah, it's the way that I was brought up, right? You act tough. You don't show yourself, and I realize that's totally ridiculous. I never do that anymore. But that's who I was at a point, and so now that I realize how helpful it can be to ask for help, and then I think this I think is a newer thing. It may not be a newer thing, but I think about this a lot as I progress in my career. Like, what are the things that are important? And at some point, I'll say this: at some point in my life, I will retire. I don't know when that point will be. I get a lot of self-worth and value out of the value I'm able to deliver to others. So I say that in the context of I'm very aware that maybe it's always been like this, but certainly as an evolution to where I am today, I feel good when I know that I'm helping people. When people say thank you, when you say things like, we have mutual friends and our mutual
Yep.
friends say nice things. Like, I'm glad that the things that I'm doing are having that impact. And I think there's something a little bit unhealthy about me attaching myself to that, which is why I bring up, like, at some point I'm going to retire and that goes away. And then what? So I got to figure that out. But I'm conscious of it as a thing right now.
But I think, I think your legacy is now, man. I can tell everybody, I can say this all the time, that our legacy is now. Like, what you do right now, people will remember that, not after you die. It says, legacy,
Yeah.
what you do is right now, how you help people, how how you guide people, coach people. This is what we do right now, and that's going to count. But, you know, going back to the startup, Austin is by far is the most interesting startup ecosystem. And one thing that I've been interviewing so many people in the startup era, like here, and everybody wants to help other people to win, which is, I did not see this anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like Silicon Valley. I have people that came from San Francisco, the Bay Area here. They brought their company here. They say, this is weird, man. I said, why? Here, everybody wants to help each other. Is this Austin been like this? You've been here for quite some time. What do you think about our current ecosystem of the Austin and everybody moving down here?
Yeah. So I'll be here 15 years in February, which, by the way, I can't believe I've been here so long. It's crazy to me. But I very, very distinctly remember I had been here maybe like 6 weeks, and I had just sold a company. I wasn't trying to network. I wasn't trying to be social. I was just sort of like moving here, and I had a lot of friends here already. So just that sort of existing. And it blew me away back then how sincerely friendly and helpful people were trying to be. Like, hey, here's a new person in town. How can we be helpful to you? And I like every coffee that I would take, someone was like, hey, you should meet these two people. And then I would get an email in my inbox to meet these two people. And I think it is a really special thing. And I'm from the East Coast. I worked my first few jobs, in companies were in San Francisco. I lived in LA for a decade. I did started and sold a couple of companies there. And then I moved here. I feel like I've seen like a lot of different places over a couple of decades. I've still not experienced anything the way that people are here. And it's getting, I think it's getting harder as it grows here and you get lots of new people in, but it seems to still be pretty prevalent. I do see it in a little bit in other up and coming communities through the Techstars network, and it's, if I think about where those places are, they're usually smaller cities. They don't have massive tech ecosystems that are just growing up, and so they don't have a choice but to be helpful to each other, because if they don't, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a special thing that we have here.
Well, and we have a lot of people, entrepreneurs, startup founders. They move down here. What advice do you have for them that you came here 15 years ago? How they're gonna adapt to Austin? Like, what they should do? Because I met in the networking event this female was from New York. My God. And she was pushing it. She was selling it. Like, she said, in New York, we have 30 seconds to say, this is who I am. This is what I do. And, this is how much money. I said, hey, hold on. It's not working here. This is Austin. What advice do you have for these young entrepreneurs? They're coming here. They're going to adapt to this new ecosystem.
Yeah. I think I would probably give this advice to anyone, anywhere, at any age, regardless of ecosystem. But I think here it is particularly important, which is when you're engaging with someone for the first time, focus on what you can learn from them and being interested in them versus talking about yourself, and open up a conversation and become friends with someone, or you don't have to become friends with them, but like develop a connection with them. And if it's appropriate to share the relevant thing that you're doing, like when they ask you, talk about it. But if we all were doing that, we would all be more, I think, open to, okay, here's a person, I'm learning something about them. Maybe I know someone that could be helpful to them, instead of focusing on myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hope that we all learn and practice that, because learning is everything, and getting to know people, because I always say that you don't know where the next opportunity is.
Yeah,
That
I'll tell you something, and I imagine that you experienced something similar, although maybe not. So I don't want to overly assume it. I have experimented with that a little bit consciously, because unconsciously, something that I've realized that I have realized, and it's some of this is indicative of my job and my role, so I understand that too. It is so rare, even in Austin, that anyone ever asks what I do, unless, I mean, if they know, fine. But like, I meet lots of people that I don't know, and that don't know me, I should say, or that anyone says, that takes an interest and wants to know more, or wants to hear how I'm doing. It's kind of interesting, and I do. So, like, to your point, like, yeah, we're a helpful town, but I also think that as we're growing as a community, there's a lot of, hey, I want to tell you about me versus I want to hear about you. That is happening.
Yeah, that's I agree with you. I encounter that a lot as well. The people, they want to know about you as a person.
Yeah.
And you really don't know. I tell you a very short story. At the end, that I was, my office was next to a coffee shop. I went to get a coffee, and it was a big table with a bunch of people were sitting. And then they had a problem about one piece of technology with Google, and we are a Google agency. Anyway, I told them, do you need help? I jumped in, I helped her. And she said, oh my God, we've been waiting for 2 months. I said, oh, welcome to Austin. And I went back in the line, got my coffee, and she said, can I have your card? And I gave her a card, and the director of operation called me 2 weeks later and said, thank you so much for doing that for us. Can we have a lunch? Make the story short, that company was Orange Theory Fitness. And then we've been clients with them for 8 years, thousands of dollars of revenue and account, and we have a great relationship with them. And I didn't know who they are. And when the guy said, yeah, we own all the Orange Theory Fitness, and met the founder, it's a long story, but one little thing that you can do.
And you weren't looking for anything back?
Nothing.
Just no, like, here you go, bye. Yeah.
No expectation. I just put my code. I just did this, solved the problem. Is everywhere. And, I think I have a rule in my life that I say, never chase love, never chase friends, never chase money. The moment you do that, you're already gone, and if we practice that, I think we are a great community. And, I'm so happy I've been here for almost 30 years. And, it's just a strong network, but I owe everything to my network, and they know that. And the reason even I do this podcast and this show and everything, there's no gaining for me. I just want to educate our society, our ecosystem, as I call it, that there is a lot of people like you that I'm talking to you that you can learn from. It's free out there. These guys, they put their sweat, tears, and blood into their work and career to help others. And now for 30 minutes, you can learn. Just listen and do it. And you can gain so much knowledge. But thank you so much, my friend. I know you're busy and your schedule is tight. I know that. But thank you so much for accepting.
Oh, man, I'm really glad that
I greatly appreciate it.